firstly, I would not use that as my baseline. I mean, so for me, it's still a 50-50 scenario, regardless of the developments of the last 1 week, because it's such a polarized nation. I don't think people on the fringe and the margin change their views on the recent developments. They will vote the way they have been voting for a long, long time. It's really the 4 or 5 swing states that matter, and I think there's still room for that 50-50 toss-up than an overwhelming Trump victory. Time will tell, but that's not my baseline that, we are already need to sort of be in the camp of figuring out which the cabinet makeup would be for Trump administration. But having said that, I think it's very transparent and understandable where that Trump administration would go if they were to come to power. I think it's very clear, in terms of deregulation, go, go, go. In terms of supporting fossil fuel, yes. In terms of tariff, of course, maxing out of the agenda that we saw pursued in the first 4 years of Trump.
And in terms of China, very much a yes, right? Because, J.D. Vance, if it's his thinking, that's going to be informing a lot of policy, and it seems like that is going to be the case, right, if Trump comes back into the Oval Office. This is a guy, I've listened to some of his speeches and some of his podcasts. He's saying the right things with regards to China. His baseline is, look, it doesn't need to be about ideas or ideologies or political systems. It's just going to be purely transactional and economic, and we're going to hit you guys hard. We can be polite about it, but we're going to hit you guys hard.
So, Martin, I see a mishmash of ideology, which is, the hegemony of the U.S. has to be protected, which is ideological, not pragmatic, and at the same time, transactional. So there's some inner contradictions there, that on one hand, it seems like from people like Lighthizer and Navarro are almost ideologically opposed to China, and their views have influenced Trump substantially in the first term. But at the same time, deals and, phase 2 and those things will surely be bandied around those terms, where, if you buy more of my stuff, I will lessen some of your burden. Some people think that the Chinese would find that more convenient because then there is a price tag associated with a deal. I'm not too sure about it.
It doesn't seem to square with this whole idea of de-dollarization and wanting a weaker dollar, which harks back to Trump 1, when we did have a weaker dollar. Yes, part of it was because the Fed was cutting, but part of it is also because Trump in his first term wanted to drive manufacturing, right? With a weaker dollar, imported costs, components and parts, etc., get cheaper, right? Therefore, it's going to help U.S. manufacturing be a little bit more competitive when it finally makes out finished products and ships them out. But if the destination is going to be China at the end of the day, how is that going to work out if you're going to be so hard on them?
No, also, Martin, I think we should be clear that over the last 4 or 5 decades, if you look at the dollar's movement versus U.S. exports or your productivity, I don't think there's any clear evidence that a sustained period of dollar weakness somehow creates disinflation for manufacturing and makes the U.S. more competitive. I think that's a function of manufacturing, innovation, productivity in those sectors, the kind of investments that's going in, as opposed to some imported disinflation through the dollar. So I think that the key issue is even if there is, say, sustained weakness in the dollar, would we actually see a surge of U.S. exports to the rest of the world, or that lower-end manufacturing goods related export prowess remains with East Asia, which has a supply chain that is unparalleled and simply can't be replicated by the United States?